General Mehta, good evening.
Hello, good evening.
Thank you, sir. Based on your last post, there were quite a few comments which were raised, and the youth of the country has a lot of doubts. There is also a lot of misinformation out there on social media, which is also being propagated by various interests for their own reasons. So, for that, we would like to get your views on the Agnipath and Agniveer scheme of entry for personnel below officer rank in the all three branches of the armed services, please.
Yeah. See, first of all, I want you to remember, which we have already been always been explained to in the organization, that there is a time for discussion and then there is a point of decision. So I feel enough discussion must have taken place. I am personally aware of the people who are working on this scheme for last many years, and some kind of a interaction with the people concerned who are professionals has been done, and government has come out with a scheme, so it should be respected, and thereafter it should also be given a chance to function. So I feel the protests which are there and the violent protests which are being taking place, they are misplaced. Firstly, secondly, they are being exploited by the vested interests, as you would have seen in the news. A lot of people are caught who got no business of being in the recruitment zone. People like 35-year-old politicians and riffraff, antisocial elements, people who've been paid to create mayhem. So I feel this issue has been lapped up by the vested interests to create problems for the government. And I sincerely believe that we need to get away from the culture of everyone looking for a government job which is pensionable. So this kind of a scheme which gives a lot of freedom to the youth, which gives a lot of avenues which are opening up for them, is being practiced in many Western countries. It is in practice in USA, in China, in France, in Russia, maybe in Germany, and many other places like Israel. Israel, they have no option because the manpower is so less and they have so many enemies. So everyone has to go through this. They get some training, they get remuneration, they get recognized, and thereafter they are given preferred job options, bank loans at easy installments. So all those things have to be uh, accepted as a norm when our society, our country progresses into the 21st century and beyond. So I feel it is a very good scheme. It should be given a try, and then we can see if it functions or not after 4 years.
So, what is the correct path for somebody who does not agree with the Agniveer or the Agnipath scheme? How should how should the changes be brought about? It is a new scheme. The government has also said that they will look into it. What are some of the ways in which a change or a protest should be registered?
See, let me give you a very recent example of one change which the government has already made. See, for last 2 years there were no recruitments, and the people who are in the recruitment zone, they have grown older by 2 years. So if the age limit was 21 years earlier, and if the age limit stays now also 21, then those people who've been waiting for last 2 years, they stand to lose. So now the government has already increased the upper age limit to 23 as a first time case for these people who've been waiting. So the scheme has been made with a lot of consultations and with a lot of professional insight. The military secretary's branch is involved for the officers. Similarly, the AG's branch is involved for the Jawans, the recruitment directorate. They have the figures, they have the data, they have the trends, they have the needs of the organization. They know what the future plans are going on for reorganization, etc., etc. So if you have a point of view which you feel should be put across, there are various ways and means. Like, for example, one Mr. M.L. Sharma, he has already put in an PIL in the Supreme Court of India that this scheme is not good. The local politicians, the MLAs and MPs could have been mobilized. They could have been petitioned. There could have been a peaceful protests. There could have been articles, newspapers, etc. A public opinion. But resorting to violence, resorting to burning of buses and trains, resorting to killing of people, killing of policemen, it is obnoxious. It is not expected out of anybody who wants to join army, and the services have taken a very very good view point that anyone who wants to apply for recruitment will have to give a certificate that I was not involved in any arson activities or any such kind of a violent protests. So peaceful ways, democratic ways of protest, legal options to be exploited should have been a correct form.
Moving on, there is also a lot of questions which are being raised on the combat efficiency of the Indian Armed Forces at the battalion level because of the fear that the vast majority of frontline soldiers will be the Agniveers and they obviously will lack in experience and maybe also the initiative needed and would not be as effective as the forces how they are currently.
See, first of all, I think people have a very wrong notion that everybody is going to be Agniveer. But you must remember, after 4 years, when 25% of them are converted into regular soldiers, they will become regular. And even if the scheme goes on for 20 years, 30 years, 50 years, the people who are more than 4 years of service will be permanent. Your section commanders, your platoon commanders, your Nayaks, your Havaldars, your LMG commander, MMG commanders, your anybody who is an appointment for leadership role will be a permanent regular soldier. Agniveers are only going to be up to 4 years. And then again you must remember, all those Agniveers will be vying to be successful in coming into that first 25% to be retained. So it means most of them, ideally all of them, should be working very hard with dedication and discipline to be able to be selected. So I don't understand why there is a issue about the combat efficiency. Any other soldier who is less than 4 years of service will be as good as these soldiers, but for the training, possibly the duration of training will be less, so that's why they will have to be guided and kept under kind of a supervision and mentored to be able to perform their jobs. But once they cross 4 years, they will be as good as regular soldiers. Right. So I don't agree with this. And the second thing is that I want to touch upon another point. People are talking about, that they will be denied pension. And because they are not being, given a permanent job, they will be demotivated. Let me tell you from first-hand experience, there are large number of people who come out after doing 17 years of service because that is the bare minimum service limit to earn pension. It is called the color service. So why do they come out? Most of them come out because of the family compulsions. They come out because they need to look after their families. They have certain problems at home, or they are feeling that their promotional avenues have been limited. So when they realize this at the service of say 10 years and they continue to serve till 17 years, why do they do that? They are only serving to earn their pension. So do you think these people will be motivated as a man who wants to serve his full life, say up to 45 years of age? So I don't agree that the motivation level of anyone who is not sure of getting a permanent job will be any less. At this rate, we should see all the short service officers will be demotivated. So they are not. And many of the short service officers, they come for the fun of serving there, and then after 5 years they opt out because they have had enough of adventure and everything and they want to branch out into life. So similarly, these Jawans who are as yet being brainwashed into thinking that a permanent job in the army is the only solution for all their problems. They will also realize with the age, with the maturity, with the opening up of the economy, with the opening up of the job market, and the private business opportunities. I think it is just a matter of time. Unfortunately, the movement has been hijacked by the political interests and the vested interests, and it is unfortunate.
There is talk of Agniveers being more inclined in trying to ensure that they are selected in the 25% by trying to please their officers by doing menial tasks. Some comments have included words like gulami, uh, extra buddies, walking dogs to get into the good books of officers to ensure the selection into the 25%. Do you think that is a possibility?
See, I feel it is firstly these type of comments are demeaning to the culture of the armed forces. They are absolutely ill-informed, and they do not do justice to the ethos of the great Indian Army, Navy, and Air Force. And we must grant some kind of a sense of proportionality to the officer cadre and to the authorities in these three services. This kind of an exploitation, the words like which you have used is unheard of. It is unthinkable. And when you say trying to please people by trying to do the job, so then what do you expect out of a worker? He has to be sincere, he has to be obedient, he has to be disciplined, he has to be willing to work. So why would you not select a person who is willing to work? He should be meeting the basic QR. He should be intelligent enough. He should be able to be take on the stress and strain, understand the basic things which he should be understanding at his level and be able to execute, and he should have a potential for growth. So if a person like that is sweet, he is sweet mannered, he is obedient, he is working hard, he is trying to please the authorities by his hard work, why not? I think every worker should be like that. But then if you think that a person who is not capable, who is trying to use any unauthorized means of impressing people or trying to be party to something wrongdoing and then currying favors like that, that is absolutely unheard of. And lastly, these kind of things are possible, and they may also go through some of them, because all of us come from the society. But then that doesn't mean that everybody will be like that.
Fair enough. Also, there is a lot of talk about pensions being given to civil servants, bureaucrats, and politicians. Why should only pensions for the army stop?
See, this is something which I feel also, that the multiple pensions, especially the multiple pensions which are being given to the politicians, MLAs and MPs. There are people who are earning 6, 7 pensions because they have been MP, MLAs for a number of times. So that should stop. I think we should have only one pension. And the second thing is, you are forgetting this one point, that the people who cross over that 4-year barrier into that 25% and become regular soldiers, they will be entitled to pensions. That nobody is stopping the pensions.
Understood. And now there is also a question as to whether there is enough financial incentive for an Agniveer who gets around 20 lakh rupees at the end of 4 years. They also have to feed their families. There are currently veterans who come out after 17 years of service who don't get any proper jobs. Why will somebody with a 4 year of service get jobs when 17-year-old veterans are not getting jobs? And which sectors do you think they will be employable in?
See, you must understand that employability of a physically fit, trained, disciplined, and experienced 21-year-old vis-a-vis the employable suitability of a man who's 32, 35 years old and maybe a little bit slow. So there is a hell of a lot of difference. And the second thing is that they have been promised additional 10% reservations in various paramilitary forces, CAPFs, as also by various state departments and state governments in the police, etc., and other government jobs. So I feel that once this quota starts being utilized, the people will feel that the scheme has done a lot of good.
Do you think that the current 6 months of training, which is planned, which you touched upon before as well, do you think that will be enough to make effective soldiers?
See, it is all difference of opinion and how the people are utilized. Like in the officer cadre, for example, an ex-NDA, there may be a Sainik school entry. They are in the Sainik schools. They are disciplined, PT, parade, etc. They are organized. You go to NDA, 3 years of NDA. So let's take it start from NDA. You have 3 years of NDA, and then you have 1 year at IMA, and then you are pitched against an officer who has just done 9 months of training in OTA. So obviously the training level of that officer who has gone after graduation into OTA, come out as an officer after 9 months, will not be that good as an ex-NDA. But then the officer is supposed to be doing whatever job he's supposed to be doing. And then after all, after 5 years or so, when they get a permanent commission, they are given some drop in seniority, then they come at par with their other course mates. Similarly, now obviously a person who has undergone 1.5 year of training will not be as trained as a person who has just done 6 months of training. But the point is that that training will have to be firstly catered for to focus on the main core areas, and secondly they will have to be kept under some kind of a guided tour once they come and join the unit. So slowly the things will take care of itself. They will be brought at par, and I am sure all the unit officers and the appointments will make sure that their training is focused on. In any case, when we get the recruits from the training centers after having done their full training, we still find them wanting in certain areas, and they are given a young soldiers training. So similarly, they will also be given the young soldiers training to make them come at par for the required task.
The Indian Armed Forces are amongst the world's largest professional standing armies. With the 25% retention on an annual basis, do you think that our total standing army will reduce in numbers? Will that be sufficient? And in a modern era where technology is playing a greater role, what is your view on the boots on the grounds versus having a more technologically savvy army?
See, you have asked me 3-4 questions in one question. Very clever of you. The first thing is that you see the 25% thing, maybe it will work as a 25% of whatever figure. But then once you let go of the 75% of the first year selection, then the second year onward the deficiency will become more. So obviously the numbers of recruitments will keep on going up to make up the minimum strength which is required. The second thing is that the downsizing or right sizing of the armed forces will have to be done as required, as a conscious decision taken after a lot of analysis, and that will be kept at that level. And I'm sure no one will like to have people go below a critical mass, and maybe 5 to 10% of the shortages will always be there here and there, but then nothing will go beyond that. And the third thing is about the boots on ground. Like we have our varied terrain along our northern and western borders and eastern borders, so which is manpower intensive. The mountains, they say mountains eat troops, and similarly jungles, they eat troops. So you need lot of manpower to do lot of boots on ground where the tanks and the APCs and other people cannot go. So you will need that much of this thing, and I'm sure a conscious decision has been taken to maintain that minimum required deterrent. And last part of your question was about the technology. So that obviously has a role to play. Sorry. Like, when I was a young soldier, we never had any thermal images. But when I became a CO, I had about 45 of the HHTIs in my battalion. So with those things which you can see up to a kilometer plus, maybe you can mount it on a weapon and maybe shoot at about 500 meters in the night. So then you don't have to place people to cover those areas. You can cover it with weapons. Similarly, you have the anti-infiltration devices, the sensors. So you don't have to do man to man every yard. So similarly, the manpower gets reduced to cover a given area. So this way the technology helps to reduce manpower, and I am sure the efforts are on to make sure that there is a correct match between the manpower, the boots on ground, and the technological support. Like you can even now we have started using drones to see beyond the hill. So you don't have to send people on the ground and sit there with binoculars to see what is happening. You just send a drone, get a very live feed. So I feel that we should trust our leadership. We should absolutely trust Indian Army, Indian Navy, Indian Air Force that we will be able to do our job, and all these administrative hiccups should be taken up for resolution through the administrative channels. But there is no need for going violence. There is no need for protesting in a manner and destroying public property and burning trains and killing people. Absolutely undemocratic and not expected out of any disciplined person who wanted to join Army, Navy, Air Force.
All right, sir. Thank you very much. If